Welcome to Bayside TV. Today on the show we have guest band The Sky Pilot performing, and we look at a topic many men have trouble talking about.
I'm fine. I don't need to talk to anyone else about this. I'm alright, I'm just tired. It's been a big week at work. I've had a lot on my mind. Once the weekend is here, it'll all go away. Guys like me don't get depressed. And I'm not going to talk about this anymore.
Today on Bayside TV, we're looking at the subject of men and depression. And Heath Black is one of my guests. Welcome, Heath.
Thank you.
Now, you used to play with the AFL?
Yeah, I used to play with the Fremantle Dockers and also spent 3 years at St Kilda from the age of 22 to 25.
Fabulous. St Kilda, my team. Greatest team. And we've also got Johnny Kieran. And you're from Headspace, Johnny.
I am indeed, yeah. Headspace is a national youth organisation for mental health with young people in Australia.
Wonderful. And I love your accent.
Thank you.
It's Scottish.
I am indeed.
Yeah, I'm indeed. I love the way you say it.
Thank
Magnificent. You. And of course, my gorgeous co-host and wife, Christie B.
Great to be here again.
Yeah, good subject today, men and depression. And Heath, let's start with you because we've invited you on the program to share some of your story with us. You've also written a book, which I should mention at this point as well, Heath Black, and it's called Black. And that's the book. Tell us a little bit about this and your story.
Yeah, the book took 3 years to write, and it was predominantly at the worst part of my life back in 2008, 9 and obviously 2010. And it was, I suppose, covers a 12-year career in the Australian Footy League and dealing with anxiety leading up to games, and also using alcohol to cope with pretty much undiagnosed mental illness. And it's taken 6 years to get correctly diagnosed, and only being correctly diagnosed in the last 37 weeks.
Wow.
So, and I turned 33 on Monday, so it's been a huge ordeal.
You say 37 weeks as if you've been counting. Has there just been such a radical difference?
Yeah, there has. I got correctly diagnosed with ADHD type 6, which is a cluster of all the other ADHD types. Not too many people know that there's 6 different types, and also bipolar 2. So there's and an anxiety disorder. So those 3 have been quite challenging, but a lot better now.
How does some of this manifest in your life before you got diagnosed? Tell us, in regard to your story.
All sorts of behavioural problems, a lot of run-ins with the police, and I suppose, the last time I was in front of the judge, he pretty much said, if you're before me again, you'll do time. So I had to get help and went into a 12-week alcohol rehabilitation process, and now, thankfully, can educate other people, men in particular, about mental illness.
Sure.
Did you have a problem as a child, or was this I guess what I'm asking is there a predisposition that people could actually look out for?
Had a very interesting upbringing, there's no doubt. Parents were separated. Dad was, I suppose, the people he associated with were different sort of people, and I was from a very strict Catholic family with mum. So there were a rebellious side and a very normal side, and that came out later in life.
Johnny, let's bring you in here and just get your initial comments on Heath's story. Is this something you see over and over again with what you do?
Yeah, it is actually. Thanks for sharing that, Heath. We in mental health services and in Headspace, certainly we see a lot of people who are struggling with their mental health, sometimes as a consequence of what's happened in their upbringing, and I suppose that can manifest itself in different ways, depression being one of the lead ways.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are some of the things you look for to diagnose, as it were, depression in someone?
Well, I guess depression, a lot of people think depression is just having kind of low moods, and of course that's part of it, and it can be a big part of it, but also I guess you'll be looking at other aspects of life that are affected. So often men talk about feeling a bit more irritable than usual, needing to drink to kind of escape their problems, which he's alluded to as well. Yep. Things like being a bit more withdrawn from their mates, not sleeping as well, maybe not eating as well as they usually would as well, and just not really enjoying life as much as usual, particularly things that you usually really enjoy, We'd ask, are you able to enjoy that? Spend time with your girlfriend, watching your favourite film or TV programme. And I say, no, I just can't get anything from that anymore. So
things that you used to enjoy, and it's like all the joy's been sucked out of it.
Yeah, there's no sort of sense of enjoyment in life as it used to be.
Do you think it amazes me that you've been up, before a judge. They're educated individuals. Would they not start asking questions? Like, would you see things that you would go, I think there's more to that than just behaviour?
For me, bipolar in general, you can really put on a fantastic front, and I became a really good liar. So I was the life of the party, so to speak, at training. People had no idea, and do you know what? I had no idea what was going on in my head. So it wasn't until really 28 that I actually started to pursue my mental illness journey, which was far too late. Too late.
What did you think of yourself and your behaviour before the diagnosis?
I just thought I was a larrikin that enjoyed a beer.
Oh dear. So that means that maybe all Australian men need to be assessed, because that larrikin thing is part of our culture as well.
It is, and Johnny's right. I think we all go through depressive episodes, and the stresses through the day are normal, the ups and downs, but it's the amount of time that someone's actually in a depressive episode. So if it occurs over a 2-week period, then we sort of know that we probably need to confide in someone and get help.
Sure.
Do you think these things are exacerbated by, you talked about anxiety before the game, the pressure in sport to perform, and other, kind of high performance occupations? Do you think that exacerbates the whole depression thing?
A little bit. I think it's a high pressure game. What we're in. You see today that there was even an article on the front and back page of the paper. Matty Robbins with depression. I know him well, and look, it is a game that does promote it in a way. But I think you have to be able to be confident enough to come out and talk to people. And men in particular, we think that we're strong and we've got this persona, but inside we're all got a breaking point, and we're all marshmallows at some stage.
Yeah.
So is it in men, is it high-performing individuals that tend to go in that, or is there any particular type of male that would go in that direction?
Look, I think all men and all individuals have got a kind of breaking point, as Heath says, and what leads you to that breaking point can be a number of things. So some people can be very high-functioning and manage really well with that for a very long period of time, and others less so, just kind of can't cope with smaller things in life, or things that would seem to others like less of a challenge. So I think what's the most important thing, what we'd be saying at Headspace, is that it's really important to seek help sort of earlier rather than later. And it's great that he's sort of sought that help at 28, but we offer support to 12 to 25-year-olds as well, and we find that 1 in 6 men will experience depression in their lives. So it's really important to kind of look at getting an understanding of yourself earlier on, as soon as you can, because the sooner you intervene and sooner services can support someone. And
it's all very well, though, isn't it, to say seek help, but what Heath just said was he actually didn't know he needed help. He just thought he was a bit of a rat bag, and So what do you say to that?
What would you suggest to that?
Well, I guess things don't have to be at breaking point to seek help. You can kind of go online, speak to our counsellors, and we can just have a general chat about how things are. It doesn't have to.
But they're not. I mean, would you yourself have actually come up to someone and said, "I think there's something wrong here"?
Not at that stage.
No.
I had to actually what I call nearly hit rock bottom. So I let it exacerbate, so to speak, to a point where I got forced into getting help.
All right, we're going to pick that up when we come back. Stay tuned. We have Street Talk with Campbell Vandersloot coming up right after the break.
Some people say that men have been dealing with depression since the dawn of time, and others say that it's just a recent thing. But why is there a rise in male depression? Depression amongst men is rising. Why is that?
I think it's because people are probably looking at their circumstances a little bit more in life now, and you probably find that it's not that it's rising, you'll probably find depression has been around since the turn of the century, it's just that people are now aware of it, and because the community is now talking about it more publicly, people are probably now coming out of the closet about their depression and their sadness and so forth. There's
a lot of pressure on people to act a certain way and be of a certain standard in sort of in social life, and I think a lot of young boys aren't meeting that expectation, they're getting depressed, I gather.
Maybe they're not allowed, they don't feel as comfortable expressing their feelings. You know, they bottle it in and feel like they can't tell anyone.
Do you think that the way of measuring depression amongst men has changed?
I think people are more conscious of it and maybe speaking about it more than they used to.
I don't know.
No idea.
I have no idea why depression among men is on the rise. No. I mean, life is good. I have no idea why depression is on the rise.
Well, I think that men, I don't know why it's on a rise, but I just think that they're not very good at expressing themselves. And particularly in Australia, I think that it's just not really cool to talk about how you feel. And that's a real problem. And I think that there's such a lot of talk about all these strong football players and all that sort of stuff. And sport is really glorified so much in this country. And I think sometimes they spend so much time thinking about sport and trying to be a big, hard man that they're not really able to be in touch with how they feel.
Our subject today on Bayside TV is men and depression. And maybe Heath will just pick up that last comment with you, you know, big tough footy player and all of that.
Yeah, it rang true there. There was a picture in 2008 of me after kicking a goal, and, you know, everything's, you know, you're muscular, you're looking fit and you're on top of the world, but internally that was nearly the worst part of my life.
Wow, so it's what people look at rather than what's
Correct.
real.
They look at the outside, but not what's going on the inside.
Yeah.
There was a comment there of somebody, they were saying that, you know, maybe men are trying to live up to a certain image, but I would have thought that today there's actually more freedom for men. I mean, men stay at home, men don't have to, you know, work and do the CEO job. They can be at home. So is that a real thing?
Well, I think it's interesting that because yes, there are opportunities for men to do other things now, but I think some men might struggle with that, you know, because it's sort of out with the traditional role that they might have been brought up knowing a man to be, and that can really be confusing and daunting for some men.
Right.
I've seen, certainly.
I'd back that up. When I retired, there was a huge void. I think playing AFL and sticking to routine, when I retired, my only commitment of work was 8 hours a week. So I was pretty much stay home. I did the shopping, I did the cooking, and literally I ended up in a hotel down the road at 11 a.m. pretty much every day for 8 months.
Wow.
Because I had nothing to do. It was away from my routine. It was away from tradition of what I thought I should bring to the relationship.
I want to pick up as well what you said before about, you know, the whole body image thing. I know I've talked to about 4 or 5 guys over the last year. 3 of them were personal trainers, 1 of them was a male model, and all of them have depression. And you've got to think, you know, like, is this part of our society where, you know, we're looking at movies and the media and, you know, the airbrushed...
You mean guys checking each other out at the gym?
Right.
I've never seen anything like it. The guys are going, you know, look, that little, you know, that little thing there.
Tricep.
I mean, that's the tricep. I mean, they walk around, they've got these skinny little legs.
Yep.
It's so funny.
But legs are overrated, let's face it.
Chicken legs and the big...
And they look in the mirror. I don't look in the mirror as much as they do. Yeah, I know you're going to say you can tell.
No, never. No, one thing I was going to say to that, actually, which is a really good analogy, I think, is that guys often focus on their physical health and looking really good. But I think if you can think of like counselling or talking about your feelings as a kind of workout for your brain or for your mind, it's a nice way of going, well, you know, that keeps me in check, and it keeps me, it's like maintenance for yourself, you know?
I think that's great.
And things don't have to get to breaking point.
It's funny you say, I say to people, if you had a broken leg, you go to a doctor to get it fixed. So if your head's broken, you need help. What's the big deal?
One of the people on Street Talk mentioned that men don't always open up. Is that part of what contributes to depression in men?
I think so, yeah, certainly from what I've seen. I think it's seen as something that's not, again, very traditionally male thing to do, and that they might see themselves as being weak by talking about having a problem. But actually they're doing something that's very strong and brave to talk about sort of how they're feeling, and they're not alone, and there are many others in that situation.
For sure.
And I've found since I've opened up and writing a book, obviously it's on the shelf, so you have to be comfortable about talking about this subject. I've felt that it's actually therapeutic for me to actually speak about it. And then secondary to that, it's people, you attract people with mental illness or worried about how they're feeling. So then you can actually help. So it's twofold, therapeutic and you're actually helping people.
You're pointing people in the right direction now.
Yep.
And is that something you found, Heath, since you've released the book and you've started talking about it? Have you found that you've been able to help a lot of guys?
Absolutely. And previously, whilst I was playing footy, I used to attract people that were, let's say, a bit rough around the edges and would also be quite aggressive to me in a social set. Now, since writing the book and helping people and doing workshops, it's totally changed. Those people that I used to attract aren't there, and I attract a whole different demographic of people, and that is people that need help.
So people that want help, not a fight.
Absolutely.
Now, when you say people want help, I've spoken to a couple of guys and basically they want help, but they want the quick fix. They want to just have the pill that's going to make their life easy. And then they wonder when they're diagnosed with depression and they wonder why things are not changing. Any thoughts on that?
Certainly. I think I meet a lot of people in my work who are just like you described, men as well, as women actually. But with men and with any situation, depression is best treated with counselling and medication. And not everyone always needs medication as well. Medication might take the edge off how you're feeling to make you sort of a bit more able to talk about what's going on for you, particularly if you're really depressed. But really talking through what's happening with the right person, someone you can trust and confide in, is really the best step.
And do you find, I mean, one of the things that we find, we would say, don't go to a doctor who's, I mean, obviously if you're in a dreadful state, but whose first line is always medication, because there may be other options. I mean, or even if you are medicated, I mean, you know, in your book it talks about you being medicated for the wrong thing.
Yeah, well, I've been misdiagnosed plenty of times, and I was medicated for anxiety and depression, and that medication actually made ADHD and bipolar far worse. So I lived with that for 2 years, and a lot of my indiscretions, no excuse, mind you, were on that medication. But you're right in saying I think your diet, and I treat it like a pyramid. Your diet is at the base, your relaxation techniques, your exercise, you're helped by your psychiatrist and your psychologist, and then your medication's at the top.
Yeah.
And if you have all those things at the base of the pyramid and you tick all those boxes, your medication will work. If you take one of those bits away, your meds won't work as well.
That's very good advice. Very good indeed. So they're the things that make it better. What are some of the things that made it worse for you?
Huge amounts of alcohol.
Okay.
So for me, it would take me away from reality. It would bring out a lot of my anger of what I saw when I was younger, and the next day the anxiety and thankfully I've only had 4 depressive episodes, thankfully, but I would be quite depressed.
Okay.
And that's hard. And then I would top it up again with more alcohol. So I was spiralling out of control. Lost my job, lost my first marriage. Everything spiraled.
For sure. Johnny, from your perspective, what makes it worse?
I would back up what he said as well. A lot of people who want to drink to take away their feelings of depression, and alcohol is a depressant, so it makes you feel more depressed. And so to get out of that depression, you want to drink more again. It also can make you more anxious as well, and it can just lead to that spiralling effect. I mean, people can do all sorts of other things as well that aren't helpful, and that can have a big impact on their relationships, you know? And then again, it can lead to a cycle of not feeling so good about yourself. So people can end up back to where they began quite easily.
Okay. Well, that's great advice. And I just want to say, you know, people watching, guys, if they've got depression or someone knows someone who has, then they can seek help, start ticking the boxes and reaching out. That would be absolutely fabulous. After the break, we have guest artist The Sky Pilot performing, so stick around for them. Welcome back to Bayside TV. Been a great discussion today on men and depression. Heath Black, thank you so much.
No worries, thanks for having me.
And don't forget to get Heath's book. It's just called Black. Johnny Kieran, thank you from Headspace.
You're welcome, thank you for having me.
And my lovely co-host Christie B.
Always a pleasure.
Wonderful. Right now we've got The Sky Pilot and their song Falling at Your Feet.
Strip me back, I'm a selfish man. Take me back to where I began. Been holding this weight for a year too long. Only saw what I wanted to opportunity. Although what I see is the path you have for me. Ever change my heart for thee? This is me learning to walk again. This is me learning to pray. 'Cause I've been lost for so many years. So I'm falling at your feet. Strip me back to a selfless man. Prepare the way that I may begin. Be the light upon my feet in my defeat. Be the reason that I sing. This is me learning to walk again. This is me learning to pray. 'Cause I've been lost for so many years. So I'm falling at your feet. High above these dreams I cannot see. High above these dreams I cannot see. This is me learning to walk again. This is me learning to pray. 'Cause I've been lost for so many